Welcome into another episode of Tailgate Talk SEC. I am Will Thomas, and today we are continuing our roster breakdown series with the Kentucky Wildcats. Last year, Kentucky, they had Mark Stoops, and they got rid of him. They moved on after just kind of running on a treadmill, being in the same place for years on years on years. And they bring in Will Stein, the offensive coordinator from Oregon. Now, on the surface, you're hiring a coordinator, which is the first time with a Power 5 head coaching job, so there's always a bit of uncertainty and not really knowing what you're getting. But man, he has turned it around quickly, at least to perception. Right, there is so much energy in Lexington around his program, his team, his staff, and the roster that he's put together, which we'll get into right now, is really, really good. It's sneaky good, and they could really win some games in the SEC this year. So starting off with quarterback, they bring in Kenny Minchey from Notre Dame out of the portal. Remember, he had committed to Nebraska, did Minchey, but then Stein and Kentucky swooped in and got him at the last second. He's a 6'2", 211-pound senior. He's only played in 10 games in his career, right? Because he was behind C.J. Carr last year. He was 23 of 29 passing for 212 in what action he has gotten. But being just barely behind C.J. Carr is a pretty big compliment, right? We saw how good he was last year, all the draft buzz he's already getting. And quarterback battles, like it's not like Minchey was miles behind C.J. Carr. That battle went on forever. And even when you do see quarterback battles like that, they're almost never, like 90-10 one guy. It's like 55-45. So Minchey was right behind CJ Carr. He's a great player, great athlete. I believe he's going to have a really good year with Kentucky this year. And the backup figures to be Matt Ponditowski, who is a 6'2", 190-pound true freshman. He was a four-star quarterback in last year's class, the number 21, overall quarterback in that class. So he'll be the depth there if Minchey does go down, if anything happens with him. But I am excited to see Kenny Minchey this year. Who he'll be handing the ball off to is a pretty talented backfield. They bring in C.J. Baxter, who is a transfer from Texas. He is 6'1", 230 pounds as a junior. He's been kind of battling injuries for a while. He's a former five-star guy. He's played in 22 career games, started 8 of them, has 148 carries for almost 700 yards and 5 touchdowns over that time with Texas. And they also bring in Javante Barnes, a running back from the other side of the Red River Shootout, coming in from Oklahoma. He's a grad transfer at 6'4", 214 pounds. He played in 31 games for the Sooners, got 10 starts in those, and carried the ball almost 300 times for over 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns. So he was very productive with the Sooners, and hopefully he can bring that production with him to Lexington. You also have Jason Patterson in that running back room, who is a returner. He's 5'10", 204 pounds as a redshirt sophomore. Played in all 12 games last year for Kentucky. Carried the ball 57 times for over 200 yards and a score. And the receiver room for the Wildcats has got some sneaky weapons in it too. Starting off with DJ Miller, who is a sophomore, standing at 6'3", 208 pounds. He showed up in 7 games last year, started 3 of them, only had 13 grabs for 175 yards and 2 scores. He was a 4-star in last year's cycle, so now that he's out of his true freshman season, right, he's had another year with the program, even though it's a coaching change, right, now he's a little more experienced. I think he'll be able to make a pretty big impact this year, and so will Nick Anderson, who is transferring in from LSU. He's a senior, standing at 6'4", 205 pounds. He started at Oklahoma, was at LSU last year. Now he's at Kentucky. He's been battling injuries ever since his true freshman season, where he was phenomenal. Right? He's only played in 27 total games. Now he's a senior. Obviously, those injuries have really piled up, but over his career, he has 50 grabs for 904 yards and 12 scores. Most of that was in his 1 year at Oklahoma that he was healthy. Like when Anderson is healthy, he is a major, major threat. And the guy that is a true freshman who I'm really excited about is Kenny Darby. He is a 6'1", 180-pound freshman he's a 4-star from Louisiana. He had an elite spring. I mean, after the spring game, Kenny Minchey, Will Stein, they're just raving about what Kenny Darby can do. He's a really explosive athlete. He's a big play threat. He already has the mind, the mental, the smarts of a really experienced player. So Kenny Darby is a name I think you could hear a lot as a true freshman, in the receiver room with Kentucky this year. And just some other guys. Shane Carr, transferred from Southern Utah. He is 6'2", 185 pounds as a junior. He has over 80 catches for 1,300 yards and 10 scores in his career. Also, Ja'Caden Ferguson, who is transferring in from Arkansas. He is 6'2", 184 as a sophomore. He showed up in 6 games last year. He was a 4-star recruit 2 years ago. And then Hardly Gilmore IV, he's back with the Cats, standing at 6'1", 183. He's a junior. He's played in 19 games in Lexington so far in his career with 34 catches, over 400 yards, and a pair of scores. The tight end room has some pretty good size to it. Willie Rodriguez is 6'4", 249 as a junior. He showed up in all 12 games last year for Kentucky, had 23 grabs for over 300 yards and a score. And they also have Henry Boyer coming back, who is 6'6", 270. He is a senior, played in all 12 games last year, only had 5 grabs for 60 yards, but I do expect that with how Kentucky's offense profiles right now and just how Will Stein's scheme is going to integrate, he'll be even more of a receiving threat this year, but with that big body, also be great in blocking. Moving on to the offensive line. This offensive line, the ceiling is high, the floor is also pretty low because 4 of the projected starters are transfers. So let's go through them right now. At offensive tackle, you have Lance Hurd, who's coming in from Tennessee. He is 6'6", 325 as a senior. He's played over 1,700 snaps in his career and has allowed only 3 sacks. So very consistent, very strong presence out wide. And the lone returner is at the other tackle spot in Malachi Wood. He is a 6'8", 329-pound junior. He played in 10 games last year, only 43 snaps, so not a ton of experience, but he did grade out 100% on his assignments over those 43 snaps, so he'll expand his role this year with the Cats. Then moving inside, the middle 3 guys at the 2 guards and center are all projected transfers. Starting off at guard, Tegra Shabola, who is a 6'6", 329-pound junior coming in from Ohio State. He started all 13 games for the Buckeyes last season, so he's plenty experienced, and he knows what a winning offense looks like. And then Elias Allen is also 6'6", 329. He's coming in from Alabama, and he played in all 15 for the Tide last year, but mainly on special teams. And then at center, it is Colton Price, a 6'3", 308-pound senior coming in from Baylor. He's played in 32 career games. 30 of those were starts at center, and last year he was all Big 12 offensive line second team rated by PFSN. So it's a bunch of talented guys, big guys, and for the most part, experienced guys. The question is, do they all mesh together and form a unit? Can those 5 guys play as one? Because if they do, the ceiling for this Kentucky offense is very, very high. But moving on to the defensive side of the ball and the edge rushers, the defensive ends, Myquise Humphrey Grace is 6'4", 271 as a senior coming off the edge. He had 31 tackles, 7.5 TFLs, 3.5 sacks, 2 pass breakups, and a forced fumble last year. He was ultra productive and he returns. And also Sam Green, whose season last year was cut short due to injury, but he is 6'2", 251, coming in now as a junior. He had 25 tackles, 3 TFLs, a sack, and 4 hurries in his limited action last year. But also in that room is Lorenzo Cowan, who is a 6'3", 250-pound sophomore. He played in 9 games, got 2 starts last year, racked up 4.5 TFLs, 2.5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. So even though he only showed up in 9 and only started 2, he was still very productive. And then Cedric Works is 6'5", 247 as a sophomore. He played in all 12 games as a true freshman, racked up 16 tackles and 2 TFLs. Then moving inside to the D tackles, Jamarion Harkless is 6'3", 346 as a junior. He's transferring in from Purdue. He played in 22 career games so far, has racked up 19 tackles, 2.5 TFLs, and 2.5 sacks. So look for the Boilermaker transfer to really make some noise. And then also Tavion Gadsden is in there, 6'5", 303 pounds as a junior. He played in 11 games last year for the Cats, racked up 28 tackles, 4 TFLs, and 2.5 sacks. And then behind those two, the depth maybe could be a little bit stronger, but here's what they got. It's Kalen Edwards, who is 6'4", 335 as a sophomore, only showed up in 5 games last year, had 5 tackles, so his role will likely expand this fall. And then Ahmad Bro is an LSU transfer, 6'3", 260 as a junior, so he's a little smaller for most defensive tackles, but he appeared in 25 games in his career so far, has racked up 36 tackles, 4 TFLs, and half a sack. Moving back to the linebacker room, we got Antoine Smith coming back here. He's 6'3", 226 as a junior. He played in all 12 games last year for the Cats, has 6 tackles and a pass breakup. And then Grant Godfrey here, number 22 on the left side of your screen, 6'3", 240 as a junior. He played in all 12 games as well, racked up 34 tackles, 2 TFLs, and half a sack. And the depth in this linebacker room, I'm actually pretty excited about. They're bringing Tavion Wallace, who is a transfer from Arkansas. He's 6'1", 251 as a sophomore. He was a 4-star player in 2025, showed up in 9 games last year, but just his build, his athletic profile is something to get really excited about if you are a Kentucky fan. And Elijah Barnes, another transfer coming in from Texas. He is a redshirt freshman, standing at 6'1", 242. He only had 4 tackles, a TFL, and a sack last year in his redshirt season with the Longhorns. So the linebacker room for Kentucky, I do believe, could be pretty strong. But going back to the secondary, Grant Grayton is 6'3", 194 as a true sophomore. Showed up in 9 games last year, racked up 16 tackles, 3 pass breakups, and a pick. They also have Terrion Nichols, who is 5'11", 194 as a junior. He played in 7, only started 6, had 18 tackles, a tackle for loss, and a pass breakup. Then some more depth in that cornerback room. Aaron Gates is transferring in from Florida. He is 6 foot, 199 as a junior. He appeared in 18 games during his time in Gainesville, racking up 34 tackles, 4 TFLs, 3 pass breakups, 3 fumble recoveries, and a pick. They also have Nasir Addison back there, who is a 6 foot senior who racked up 13 tackles last year. Jaden Smith, who is a 6'3" sophomore who got 10 tackles last season. And then Hassan Sykes, who is transferring up from Western Carolina, standing at 6 foot tall, 192. He's played in 20 career games, has 54 tackles, 5 pass breakups, 3 picks, and a forced fumble. Then backing up to the safety room, Ty Bryant comes back. He was all SEC second team for the Cats last year, standing at 6 foot, 196. He is a senior. Started all 12 games last year for Kentucky, obviously. Racked up 76 tackles, 2 TFLs, a pass breakup, and 4 picks. And another Florida transfer in the secondary for the Wildcats is Jordan Castell back there at safety. He is a 6'2", 211-pound senior. He had 35 career games at Florida. He started 34 of those, and he racked up 68 tackles, 13 pass breakups, and 2.5 TFLs. Some other safeties in that room is Martellus Carter Jr., who is a 6 foot redshirt freshman, only played in 4 games last year, racked up 4 tackles, but he was a former 4-star guy. And Jesse Anderson III is a 6 foot junior coming in from Pitt. He played in 10 last year with the Panthers, racked up 2 tackles, so he'll expand his role a little bit this season as well. And then kicking for him is a familiar face in Jacob Callaway, who is 6'1", 216 as a sophomore. He was 13 of 16 on field goals last year and 32 of 32, 100% on extra points. So that is Kentucky's roster for the 2026 season. What I'm looking forward at, or what I'm looking at the most, is that offensive line, because the offense really does have the weapons to compete and put up some major points in the SEC. And I trust Will Stein's scheme. I know what he can do with offensive players and offensive talent. If that offensive line is able to hold up, they can score a lot of points this year. But if it doesn't, Minshew will be running for his life. The running backs will struggle to get space and establish the ground game. It could really go off the rails quickly. So that offensive line is really going to determine the ceiling for Kentucky this season. And defensively, they have some familiar faces. They bring in some key pieces, but I do believe that Kentucky's offense will likely outperform their defense this year. But the Wildcats, man, this could be a pretty fun season for them. I do believe that the Will Stein era is going to be very, very good for fans down there in Lexington. So if you have been enjoying all this college football content and you want to see your team's roster breakdown coming up, I believe it's LSU tomorrow. Subscribe to me here. Follow me on Twitter. I'll be doing SEC football, college football as a whole previews all summer long, every single day leading up to the season. So thank you so much for watching this episode of Tailgate Talk SEC. I've been Will Thomas, and I will see you next time.